In less than a decade, Sihanoukville, once a quiet coastal town of Cambodia, underwent a transformation so violent that even longtime residents could no longer recognize their own home. From a modest seaside destination with white sand beaches and an unhurried pace of life, it rose into a mini Macau, a forest of concrete skyscrapers glowing day and night under neon lights. Yet behind that dazzling facade, the true engine of growth was neither tourism nor manufacturing, but the incessant clatter of keyboards operated by hundreds of thousands of people turned into digital slaves inside vast online scam compounds. Sihanoukville, and more broadly the Cambodian economy itself, became, whether by accident or by design, the Silicon Valley of cybercrime in Southeast Asia. Billions of dollars in dirty money from across the globe flowed into the city, laundered through casinos, shell companies, and financial fronts, before being reborn as luxury high-rises, massive complexes, and fleets of Rolls-Royces and Bentleys cruising along coastal roads. At one point, people joked that in Sihanoukville you could throw a brick and hit a scam kingpin. But no party lasts forever. Under mounting international pressure, particularly from China and neighboring countries, the Cambodian government was eventually forced to act. Large-scale raids were launched in coordination with regional security forces. Scam compounds once considered untouchable were sealed off, computers confiscated, and thousands arrested. The climax came with the arrest of Tran Chi, one of the most notorious scam bosses in the region. Tran Chi was no ordinary criminal. He embodied the shadowy fusion of money and power, an internationally wanted fugitive who nevertheless held Cambodian citizenship and had even been awarded a noble title for his contributions to the nation. His arrest sent a seismic psychological shockwave. It was a clear message that there were no longer forbidden zones, that no amount of money or influence could guarantee immunity. In the aftermath, thousands of people, both willing participants and coerced victims, fled under cover of night. Viral images spread across social media of Vietnamese and Thai workers breaking down doors, scaling walls, and escaping from casinos and compounds in Sihanoukville and border areas like Bavet. Within months, a city once among the most frenetic in Southeast Asia became eerily deserted, resembling a place that had just survived an invisible pandemic. Then the most painful paradox emerged. As the scam industry collapsed, it triggered a chain reaction that brought down an entire local economic ecosystem. Taxi drivers who once earned $40 or $50 a day now waited endlessly for customers and struggled to make $5. Guest house owners, restaurant operators, laundromats, businesses of every size folded one after another. Skyscrapers worth billions stood abandoned, hollow concrete shells with no windows, no interiors, no occupants. Cambodia found itself in the midst of an unprecedented and agonizing withdrawal from dirty money. To understand how a nation could become so deeply dependent on criminal cash flows, one must rewind to around 2016. This was when Cambodia flung open its doors to foreign investment, especially from China, with the ambition of turning Sihanoukville into a flagship special economic zone. Liberal casino policies, combined with lax oversight of labor and immigration, unintentionally created fertile ground for transnational crime. Criminal syndicates from China, Taiwan, and later Vietnam and Thailand quickly recognized the opportunity. Why run scams at home under high risk when they could relocate to Cambodia, rent entire buildings, bribe a handful of local officials, and operate scam factories employing thousands in near total openness? Land prices in Sihanoukville skyrocketed tenfold, even 20-fold. Within a few years, hundreds of high-rise buildings shot up like mushrooms after rain, not for tourists, but as fortified compounds with high walls, barbed wire, and armed guards. Inside were tens of thousands of young people lured by promises of easy work and high pay, only to be imprisoned, beaten, and forced to conduct scams from fake investments to romance fraud and cryptocurrency schemes. Around these compounds grew a grotesque economic ecosystem. Local landlords became wealthy overnight, renting dilapidated rooms for $500 to $1,000 a month. Restaurants, karaoke bars, and supermarkets sprang up solely to serve the criminal population. At its peak, living costs in Sihanoukville surpassed those of Phnom Penh and rivaled even New York for certain goods. At the core of this long-running impunity was systemic collusion. Cambodian law allows foreigners to acquire citizenship through large investments or donations to the state, a loophole ruthlessly exploited by crime bosses. Scam money bought citizenship, citizenship bought land, and the image of a philanthropist became a protective shield. A segment of the political and law enforcement elite turned a blind eye or actively collaborated. In some cases, victims who sought help were handed back to their captors and punished further. The collapse of the scam compounds marked a victory for security, but an economic disaster in the short term. More than 1,000 buildings now stand abandoned. Billions of dollars in capital are trapped in concrete ruins. Ordinary Cambodians, many of whom borrowed heavily to build rental properties, have borne the brunt of the pain. Non-performing loans have surged, banks face mounting risks, and the government is caught in a brutal dilemma: restructure or endure prolonged suffering. Cambodia is now attempting to lure new investors and repurpose abandoned buildings into tourism or industrial facilities. But how does one cleanse the reputation of a place branded globally as a scam capital? Restoring trust may prove far harder than rebuilding the city itself. Meanwhile, cybercrime has not disappeared. It has merely shifted. From Sihanoukville, scam networks have migrated to Myanmar, Laos, and remote border regions controlled by militias, places where the rule of law barely exists. Squeeze one end of a water balloon and it simply bulges elsewhere. The rise and fall of Sihanoukville's scam economy offers a costly lesson for every developing nation. There are no shortcuts to prosperity. Sacrificing security and national credibility for easy, unregulated capital ultimately produces an addicted and fragile economy. The glittering towers of Sihanoukville are not symbols of development. They are tombstones for reckless ambition. The future of Sihanoukville and of Cambodia itself remains uncertain. Can the country overcome this shock and rebuild a clean, sustainable economy? Or will it continue to struggle with ghost cities and a darkness that merely changes form rather than disappearing? That question is not Cambodia's alone. It is a warning for all of Southeast Asia. Thank you for watching this story. If you found it meaningful, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video. And now it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for staying with Societal Stories.